I know a lot of people asked about Hansel and Gretel, and we don't have time to go into Hansel and Gretel right now, but we are going to shift over to another topic having to do with following your excitement and the things that go along with that.
Yes.
Um, Van Gogh is known as someone who followed his highest excitement and yet did not achieve the recognition for his art during his lifetime. What part of the follow your excitement formula did he not fulfill?
Well, there was a lot of self loathing in that, but there's also a misunderstanding and an assumption in the question itself that's being asked. Because the idea assumes that he had to experience a classical sense of success when that wasn't necessarily his purpose. So the idea is to back off of the insistence and assumption that even though he was following what appeared to be his passion, he wasn't necessarily fully involved in that, though he may have expressed it at times, but he may have flip flopped back and forth between the idea of his passion and the idea of fear based beliefs of self loathing, lack of worth, undeservability. But again, that doesn't necessarily mean that if he followed his passion, he would necessarily have to demonstrate success in the way most people on your planet think he should have. That's an assumption and a presumption that that would actually be necessary on his particular path, which it didn't really have to be.
I know that's interesting because as long as you're experiencing the state when you're doing the art, whether or not
Yes.
it turns out to be recognized during your lifetime is
Is not the point.
it's not relevant really.
Not always. It might be relevant in some cases, but the idea again is to remember that we've always said that you have to act on your passion for its own sake, not because of what you think it's going to get you. And the idea that it had to get him recognized in his lifetime is one of those assumptions that it had to happen that way if he was in his passion. No, not necessarily, because you don't understand what his full path necessarily was, what the reason was he existed at that time, who was affected by him in a variety of ways. So you don't necessarily have to assume that he needed to be recognized just because he might have been following his passion.
So to release fear-based beliefs once they're conscious, how do we do that effectively?
All right, well, as we have said, once they're conscious, once you recognize the fear based belief is there, it's very important to pay attention clearly to what it's saying to you. Really listen to what it's saying to you. And when you compare what it's saying to you to what you see in what you call the outer world, in other words, what you see other people doing that they're capable of doing in terms of following their joy, you will realize, if you pay attention, that there is a great contrast between what the negative belief is saying to you and what you're seeing that other people are capable of doing. And if you are seeing other people capable of doing things that are similar to what you would prefer to do, then that means because you can see them, you could use them as models and you can do something similar to what they're doing. You can follow your passion too, like they may be doing. So when you take the idea of what the negative belief is saying and you compare it to what you see other people of doing, which means you can do that too, suddenly what the negative belief is saying to you will make no sense, will be illogical, because you will realize that it doesn't have to be true, that what the negative belief is saying is not really a fact, because obviously it's not a fact for those people. So why should it be a fact for you? That suddenly renders it into nothing more than a perspective, an opinion, a belief. And as soon as you understand it's a nonsensical belief because it doesn't have to be true, that it's not really a fact, it's gone, because you don't hold on to things that don't make sense. If you do keep holding on to it, that means you have another belief that is reinforcing that one to make it make sense. This is what we call a self sustaining belief system cluster. In many cases, it's not just a single belief that you're dealing with. It might be two, it might be three that are, in a sense, in a relationship with one another in a particular way, so that if you are about to let go of one belief, one of the other negative beliefs will do something to make you sway away from letting that belief go, will convince you that you shouldn't do it. So that's why we always say, if you're still doing what you don't prefer to do, dig deeper. There's another negative fear-based belief that is making you think you shouldn't let go of the first one that you discovered. Sometimes you have to work with a cluster of beliefs that are reinforcing one another in a particular way, so that working together, you won't let any one of them go. You have to be clever enough to know what that system is like, how it's structured, how they reinforce themselves by understanding that clusters exist. And therefore, you'll be able to see through the idea that if you're about to let go of one, you might suddenly feel that another belief in the cluster will make it seem as if there's a reason to not let that one go.
So they reinforce each other to the point where you're afraid to move forward, you're afraid to let
Yes.
go. And
Yes.
so, and the more intense the fear gets, that the closer you are to actually letting go of the fear.
Yes, because as soon as you are really close to letting go of that fear-based belief, the fear-based beliefs will work even harder to ensure that you don't let it go. And one of the tools they have at their disposal is the amplification of the fear that they're already generating within you to not move forward. So the fact that you might actually become even more afraid of letting it go is actually a positive sign that you're getting really close to letting it go and making the fear-based belief work that much harder to convince you not to let it go. If you understand that, you'll be able to push through the fear and it will be gone.
So, when you're in a positive state and you start having all kinds of wonderful positive synchronicities,
Yes.
and suddenly, out of nowhere, a negative situation occurs from what appeared to be a positive synchronistic experience.
Yes.
How do you understand what's happening and how do you properly respond to that?
Well, you have to remember one of the tools in the kit of passion, in the kit of excitement, is the reflective mirror. The reflective mirror, as you are experiencing your excitement, if anything is within you still that is representative of a fear based belief, it's going to come up, because that's what the reflective mirror does, is bring your attention to something that's out of alignment with all of the joy and the positive energy that you're experiencing, so that you can find out what that is, so that you can bring it into the forefront of your consciousness, so that you can allow it to become nonsensical, so that you can let it go and add its energy to your excitement. Because if you're not made aware of the fact that even though you're acting on your excitement, you may still unconsciously be harboring something that is not in alignment with your excitement. If you're not made aware of that, then you can't let it go. So the idea again is to remember this state of being is, as you are experiencing your excitement and suddenly something comes up that seems to interrupt it, you have to remember that what's happening is your attention is being focused on something you don't prefer, so that you can let it go. And the fact that it came up is part of your excitement, not an interruption in it. In other words, don't define it as an interruption. Define it as an opportunity to create more excitement by letting go of the beliefs that won't allow you to experience excitement as fully as you could. So discovering something that's not part of your excitement is part of your excitement.
And so, would you say that whenever a person experiences emotional pain, that's representative of the idea that they have strayed from being their true self, and that
Yes.
they are believing something that is not accurate in terms of their true self, and the pain is
Yes.
to warn you that you
Yes.
have strayed from being.
It's a guiding mechanism. As we have said over and over many times throughout these transmissions, pain is the result of resistance to the natural self, to the true self. So pain is your guiding mechanism to let you know when you have strayed vibrationally far away from your true self, so that you can go back to your true self and then relieve the pain.
So when people are in darkness and they feel a lot of pain and they don't know where the light is, um,
The light is always within. The light is always within the examination and paying attention to the idea that you're holding on to fear based beliefs. That's where the light gets turned on, is that you remember that and that you investigate that and bring the fear-based belief into the light of your conscious mind so that you have something to work with.
And so when you're truly yourself, your true self, and you let go of the negative beliefs that are bringing you pain, then
Yes,
you experience an entirely new reality, don't you?
of course. Now, you're experiencing an entirely new reality every moment anyway, but you may be recreating the continuity of believing that you have to remain in a state of being that gives you pain. So again, it's not so much that you actually are doing something new by shifting into a new reality. It's that you are awakening to the fact that you always have been and finally taking advantage of that fact by really redefining who you are and letting yourself discover what the belief systems are within you that may not allow you to break that continuity.